This is it. Training camp opens today, 8:45 a.m. Talk about bright and early. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way, well, like them, bright and early. Every weekday, if you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates that I hope you'll additionally check out. There are 3 total sessions for those of you who will be heading up to Cranberry. They're at 8:45, 11:30, and then at 2. If you're a complete nutcase, you'll check out all 3. If you've got some sanity left, you're going to pick and choose. I can tell you that based on the past, your chances of seeing your big name guys are excellent earlier in the day. Because those guys like to get on out of there and enjoy the remainder of the summer that they've still got. And, you know, they've kind of earned it. Along the way, you're going to be hearing from a lot of different people. You're going to hear from players. You're going to hear from Dan Muse. You're going to hear from Kyle Dubas. And what you're going to hear, as I've been letting you know for weeks now, is that this team has a goal of making it back to the Stanley Cup playoffs. You'll hear that from everyone, yes, including Dubas. And I don't have to guess at this, since a few days ago, up at that same rink, the two of us had a pretty good conversation in watching a practice together. And that conversation focused on an objective, a clearly delineated objective for the 2025-26 season. And when I ran past him the concept of getting back to the playoffs, he expressed confidence in the leadership group. He expressed confidence in the energy level that he's sensing around the team. He expressed confidence in Muse and all kinds of other good stuff. But if you're wondering, through everything that I've said through 2.5 minutes right now, why, if that's the case, wouldn't he go and spend all of the allotted dollars that he has under the NHL's salary cap? He's sitting on about a $13 million surplus. Why wouldn't he have been more aggressive, specifically as it applies to left defense? Why wouldn't he have gotten this player or that player who could have made a meaningful difference at this position or that position? The way he laid it out for me, and the way I'm expecting you're going to hear from him today, is that he's not about to abandon what he sees as the broader plan. There's a 2-track way of looking at what the Penguins are doing. 1, yes, he'd love to see them succeed. He'd love to see them win. 2, he's not going to do things with a primary goal of getting that done this season, because he doesn't want to stray from what he sees as being essential to the team's more protracted outlook. In other words, let's say, for example, that there's a free agent that he really liked. I'm not giving you this name, okay? I know it. I'm not giving it to you. And that player would have been just a wonderful fit at the Penguins' greatest position of need. And he'd have been affordable, and he would have been happy coming here. But he didn't fit, and neither did the financial commitment that would have been required to signing this player with what had been needed, let's say 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And if you've seen the free agent contracts that go out to players in this category, they're 6, 7, 8 years. Well, that could have gotten done. That didn't get done. So are the Penguins as strong right now as they could have been right now by signing this player? No, of course they aren't. But is Dubas going to express any regrets about that? No, of course he isn't. And I think he shouldn't. I think that to date, the look and feel of this overall plan has been perfect for where the Penguins are, especially when you consider that when Dubas initially came in, yeah, he went out and got them a bunch of older guys and said, go for it one more time. Well, they went for it. You saw how that ended up. At which point he begins accumulating assets, at which point he starts turning some of those assets into real live younger players, whether it's additional draft picks, whether it's guys in their mid-20s, the Phil Tomasino, Anthony Beauvillier class, so that the Penguins will at least get younger at the NHL level, while also accumulating both quality and quantity of prospects, since both are very much needed, and hoping, and that's the key word here, that the young players, or at least some of the young players, can accelerate faster even than whatever their own expectations, their most optimistic expectations, might happen to be. I say this a lot lately, but if you can get 5 of the players who just participated or were intended to participate in the Prospect Challenge this past week in Buffalo onto this NHL roster, you're going to have a quarter of your roster made up of, by definition, prospects. Ville Koivunen, Rutger McGroarty, Tristan Brose, Owen Pickering, and at some point over the coming winter, Sergei Murashov. I mean, you're going to still have people who look at the Penguins and see Sid and Gino and Letang and go, oh my God, they're so old. If a quarter of your team just participated in the Prospects Challenge and they earned their way onto your NHL lineup, the 20 people you actually have dressing for a game at the top level, then you are making a very real stride. And you don't blow that up for the short-term goal of getting to the playoffs. If that strikes some as mushy middle, if that strikes some as being unclear or murky, so be it. I really like it. I think it's worth thinking about, considering what it is, if you don't. But once more, for emphasis, if this team makes the playoffs, that lifts all the boats in this particular sea. It really does, because it means everybody's getting better, including the kids, and the kids would have had an impact. And now your pool of quality and quantity has a higher concentration of quality than maybe you had even expected. Winning is good. Crazy, right? When we come back, J1Q. Hey guys, if you're planning to see a concert or a Penguins game, once the NHL season starts, use the GameTime app to get your tickets. You can snag new ticket deals before anyone if you set it into app alerts. The app is easy to use. No surprise fees at checkout. You can see your seat view before buying, and you're getting legit tickets delivered on time. If you're not much of a planner, you can get last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of an event. Lowest price guaranteed, or GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the GameTime app and enter the code DKPenguins in your app profile for $20 off your first purchase. Today's J1Q comes from Sylvain Baudin, who says he's heading down from Montreal, 10-hour drive, which he says he's making all by his lonesome to catch the Marc-Andre Fleury semi-finale or whatever you'd want to call that event later this month. He's supposed to participate in 2 practices and play 1 period against the Blue Jackets in a preseason game. So after laying this out, Sylvain has a J1Q and asks, do you know why the Penguins are always one of the teams that have invited, drafted, or traded for more players from Quebec than the majority of the other teams? Is it because scouts in Quebec are more persuasive than their peers? You know, I can't say, Sylvain, in all honesty, that I ever thought of the Penguins as having any kind of lean toward French-Canadian players in general, whether it's from the Montreal, Quebec area, or even the more far-flung places like Sorel-Tracy, where Flower hails from. But there is a tradition. I mean, over the half-century plus that the franchise has existed, in addition to the greatest player who's ever played the game, you do have Flower, you do have Chris Letang, who is, by every reasonable reckoning, no matter how much you get mad at him on occasion, the greatest defenseman in franchise history. So now you're talking about the greatest forward, the greatest defenseman, and really the greatest goaltender. Now, there have been a lot of other players along the way. There have been a lot of other top picks. But the one aspect of this discussion that would move me the most is that if you go back to the 1970s and you begin with the tragedy of Michel Briere, a top pick who was killed in a car crash, is one of only 3 players with his number retired. So an indelible part of the franchise's legacy. And then you get into who the franchise's 2, if you think about it, premier forwards were in that decade. I would choose Jean Pronovost number 1. I think most people would, as the team's like preeminent forward of the decade. We can debate overall player, although I'd still probably take Pronovost over Dave Burrows, the great defenseman. And the other one would be Lucky Pierre, because Pierre LaRouche came along and made an immediate and especially impressive impact on the market because he was young, he was fun, and when you're an expansion team and you're bringing a new sport to a city, you got to sell personalities too. You've got to be somebody whose name everybody knows before they walk into that building, and Lucky Pierre was definitely one of those. But you can go over the years and point to Pascal Dupuis. Max Talbot fits that bill. How about Big Frankie Leroux? How about a lot of the goaltenders over the years? Michel Dion, Denny Herron, J.S. Aubin, Sebastian Caron. Don't forget the coaches. There have been a few of those, most notably Michel Therrien. So yeah, maybe you're onto something, my man. It's just not anything that I've really ever processed too hard. I know that the Montreal Canadiens have obviously always leaned toward the French speaker to break ties. That's still something that they do to this day. I know that when the Nordiques left Quebec to go to Denver, that the Avalanche took a lot of that with them. Pierre Lacroix remained the GM, and they would employ a lot of French speakers, even though that obviously wasn't a thing they were going to need in Denver. They just tried to maintain the Nordique tradition. Anyway, have fun and drive safely, my man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, especially those of you who stuck it out with me all through the off season. We actually have real stuff to discuss beginning today.